All right, family. So today we're going to be talking about nutrition when it comes to managing diabetes. So this video is going to be for people that have diabetes or people that might be pre-diabetic or want to even prevent them getting diabetes in the future because maybe diabetes runs in your family. And if you know, diabetes is so common nowadays. You probably know somebody with diabetes. It's very common and it has to do a lot with people's lifestyle, the way they eat, their physical activity. So in this video, I'm gonna share easy, simple things that people could do, because if you see online, there is so much education about diabetes, and I could see how people could get lost with so much information. And in this video, I'm gonna break it down and make it as simple as possible that anybody that watches this video could do something to manage and improve their diabetes and their blood sugar levels. And if you're curious, who am I? I am a registered dietitian. So I am a person that is qualified to give you some nutrition tips to improve your health. So thing number one, this one is gonna be very important. It's not gonna be nutrition wise, but I want you to be very mindful about this. Physical activity is gonna be a big game changer to improve your blood sugar levels for anybody with diabetes or being pre-diabetic. And I'm gonna give you an example, and it's somebody close to me, my dad. Let me tell you something, why physical activity is so important. Because sometimes you might be a person that you might be like, I don't even eat a lot of food, but my blood sugar levels are high. That's very common. A lot of people don't eat a lot of food. They eat small amounts, but they're like, damn, my blood sugar is so high. But a lot of times when I ask deeper questions about their physical activity, there are people that don't move a lot. So you might not be eating a lot of food, but because you don't have a lot of physical activity, then the food that you eat breaks down to sugar and it just chills in your blood, and it doesn't get into the cells or gets used by the body. So your blood is just full of sugar. So you have to be mindful of how much physical activity you're having and increasing that. An example is my dad. He's a Uber driver. So he doesn't eat a lot of food, but what does he do? He wakes up in the morning, gets in his car, drives all day, comes back home, sits down at the table, eats, goes to his room, watches TV. There's not a lot of physical activity day to day when he's working. So even though he doesn't eat a lot, all that food just sits in his blood and it turns into sugar. And that's why if he checks his blood sugar levels, they're gonna be high. So make sure that is something that if you don't have in your regimen, be more active. Something simple could be go for a 30-minute walk every day. Maybe after dinner, go for a 30-minute walk. Or you could break it down 3 times out of the day. Maybe if you're like working, take a 10-minute break, go for a walk, come back, sit down on the computer, whatever you're doing, but maybe 3 10-minute walks, 10-minute breaks. People in the work setting get 10-minute breaks, go for a walk. Or at the end of work, walk 30 minutes. That little change of walking 30 minutes could be a big thing that improves your blood sugar levels. Second thing that we're gonna talk about is avoid processed foods. And let me tell you why, okay? Because you always hear, oh, avoid processed foods. Yeah, we know processed foods are bad, but let me tell you why. One, processed foods are gonna be usually high in sugar, high in fat, because they're packaged, and whoever's packaging them, it's a company. So this company wants to make money. So they're not gonna make this food not taste good, because if the food does not taste good, you're not gonna buy it. And they're a business, they want you to buy their food. So they're gonna put it with high sugar, high fat. Sometimes what they do is like, oh, let's promote this as a low sugar option. So people buy it as a low sugar, but what they do to make it taste good, they put a lot of fat in it. And so now the food tastes good, but now they took away the sugar, but they put fat so it could taste good to you. So it really didn't improve your health. And then vice versa. If you're looking for a low fat option. Sometimes they do take off the fat, but then they put sugar so it could still taste good. So oftentimes when you're gonna be looking for processed foods, the company is gonna make them very tasty, which usually is gonna be high in sugar, high fat. That's not gonna benefit your blood glucose levels. And then also, I want you to think about this. These foods are gonna be tasting so good that it's hard to stop eating them. Think about it. When you're eating something so tasty, you just can't, like, sometimes can't stop yourself. You just want to keep eating that food. Picture donuts. Maybe for me, donuts. If I'm eating donuts, man, I have to force myself to stop because I could eat donuts all day. It's just that sugar rush. So if usually people are going to be weak in that area, so to prevent yourself from putting yourself in that situation where you're just like, damn, I feel like I'm overeating, just avoid as much processed foods as you can. Go more natural, which is going to bring us to the next topic. Choose natural foods. And let me explain what I mean by that. So natural foods, let's think about fruits. They're naturally made in the trees. Vegetables, they're naturally made on the ground. So choose more vegetables, fruits, meats, eggs. All these foods are naturally made from animal or plants. And so you want to go with those type of foods. Another one to think about, another way to think about more natural foods, think about foods that are simple ingredients. And let me explain. Like, oh, simple ingredients. Rice. What is rice? Rice is just rice. All right. So it's just one simple ingredient. It's rice. It's not with a bunch of processed stuff. It's just rice. Beans. It's just beans. So get natural foods. Cooked rice. Cook it at home. Cook beans, lentils, these natural foods. Try to choose more of those. And that is going to be helpful too, because usually these natural foods, they taste good because you can make them taste good with spices and herbs. But usually they're not going to be so tasty where you're just like, oh my God, I can't stop eating. Usually it gets to a point where, yeah, they taste good, but chances of you overeating that food is going to be less because it's not super, super tasty. Another thing it's going to be beneficial from these natural foods is they're going to be high in fiber and high in vitamins and minerals. And then fiber, one thing, fiber, you probably hear that fiber is super good. There's a lot of great benefits about fiber, but when it comes to improving your blood sugar levels, let me tell you one thing that I think fiber is very good at, is that fiber is going to make you feel full. It's going to sit in your stomach and it's going to take space in your stomach without the calories. So you're going to feel full, meaning you're not going to want to eat more food because, oh, I'm pretty satisfied. I'm pretty full. But it doesn't have the calories. So you're not going to want to overeat, which is going to help you not increase your blood sugar levels. So just know that fiber, vitamins, and minerals does so many magical stuff in your body that helps you with managing your appetite, energy, which overall will help you make smarter choices when it comes to your nutrition and your activity level. Another one, big one, drink a lot of water. I was gonna say plenty of water, but I would say drink a lot of water because water is gonna make you feel full, especially when somebody's trying to manage their blood sugar levels. Means that you have to kind of stop eating so much food. You're like, okay, I'm eating too much and my blood sugars are too high. I have to eat less. So for you to not feel hungry, make sure you're drinking a lot of water. A lot of water, one thing, is going to help you with satiety, make you feel not hungry because your stomach is going to be full of water as well. But then also it works as a diuretic. So if you drink a lot of water, you're going to notice that you're going to start peeing. So one of the cool things is going to happen is you're going to start peeing a lot. You're going to pee out a lot of extra sodium that your body might be having in your system, which is going to make you feel less bloated, feel better in your image, and overall improve your health. So drink plenty of water. One tip that I always love to give that you could try is, one, you could get a gallon of water and just pound it throughout the day. But one simple thing is get a glass of water before you eat any meal. So if you're going to have your dinner, have a glass of water, drink it, have your dinner, and then finish with another glass of water. So you can finish your dinner and then just kind of sip and talk to your family, drinking your last cup of water. So one before, one after. That's easy to remember. Just know that's how easy you could get your water because you're just going to combine it for sure with any meal. Another one that I'm going to say is avoid fast food. And it's going to be for the same reasons of the processed foods. Any fast food or any food that you order at a restaurant, takeout, remember guys, these are restaurants, companies that want your money, for you to come back again. If I was a restaurant, I would want my customers to come back. So yes, I would want to make food healthy, but I cannot make it too healthy, because if it's too healthy, people are like, ugh, this salad has no flavor. I'm never coming back. So I'm gonna do something to make it taste good, at least good, so you could be like, oh, it's good. So these restaurants are not always gonna be catering to your goals, because their main goal is to bring you back, so they have to make the food extra tasty. So a lot of times they put a lot of oil, a lot of salt to make, because we know that salt makes food taste so good. So they add a lot of fat, a lot of salt, a lot of sugar to the food to make it taste good. So one thing to try to do your best is avoid eating fast food too often, because sometimes you're humans. I don't want you to be like never eating out in a fast food restaurant. I don't want you to do that. But a lot of people do it often. People do it during the week, 3 times, 4 times out of the week they eat out. On the weekends they eat out. So maybe make it just a weekend thing. Maybe just on the weekend eat out. But maybe Monday through Friday, try to make home cooked meals with the whole grain foods that we talked about, the more natural foods. So Monday through Friday, but don't be so rigid where you're just like, I'm never gonna eat out, because that's just gonna be unsustainable, and honestly, you're not really gonna enjoy life. So try to reduce it to maybe just the weekends or a couple times out of the week. One tip that I want you to really listen, that's gonna be very helpful. Usually when somebody wants to improve their health, what is the first thing that they think about? Okay, I'm gonna take away alcohol from my life. I'm gonna stop eating out. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop that. So that's being like excluding things out. Don't have that approach. I like this approach. Be inclusive. Include. What am I gonna, instead of what am I gonna exclude out of my diet? What am I gonna include? And let me tell you why that is so important. So let's give you an example. Being inclusive. Okay. I'm gonna add fruits into my diet. I'm gonna add vegetables into my diet. I'm gonna add lean meats into my diet. Automatically, you eat putting into your diet vegetables and fruits, something's gonna have to give. Something's gonna have to be taken away, because if you have a plate with vegetables and fruit, then that means that it's not gonna have a lot of room for other food, because you have to eat those foods. So by doing that, one thing automatically, you're gonna eliminate, maybe if you're a person used to eating like rice, beans, and meat, now because you're adding fruits and vegetables, then you're gonna take away some beans and rice, so much of the foods that have high carbs, which is gonna lead to high blood glucose levels. So you're gonna have to take that, like, oh man, that's not gonna fit. So make sure that you include fruits and vegetables, and because you're for sure including those, you don't want to super stuff your face, so something's gonna have to be taken out. So maybe all the other foods that might be high in carbs, rice, beans, tortillas, maybe reduce that, because you're adding these foods. So you being inclusive is gonna be a way better approach than try to be excluding things, because chances are this happens to all of us. If you're excluding things, you start missing them, you start craving them, and eventually there's a moment when you feel weak and you want to end up eating those foods, and then you overeat them, and then you stop your whole healthy dieting approach, and then you just go back to your old ways. So just focus on being inclusive. What can I include that is healthy into my diet? Another thing that I want you to focus on is every meal that you have, try to make it high protein as much as possible. And let me tell you a couple reasons why. Protein, one, is not going to increase your blood glucose levels. So especially if you're trying to manage your diabetes, having a lot of meat is not going to increase your blood glucose levels. So have as much meat as you can. So if you have a lot of meat, that same thing's going to happen, because you're having more meat, you're going to get full off that meat. So you're going to eat maybe less rice, beans, tortillas, less of the carbs foods. And then also protein, usually a lot of people are lacking protein. And we know protein is so important for you living a long, healthy life, maintaining your muscle mass, which as you age, naturally you lose muscle mass. And you want to maintain your muscle mass, because if you lose muscle as you age, you are gonna have less energy and ability for you to move and do your natural things that you normally do day to day. So having high protein is not going to increase your blood glucose levels, but it's also going to help you with managing your life and living a healthy lifestyle and being healthier as you age, because you're going to retain your muscle mass. And then one thing that I want you to consider, don't all these tips that I'm telling you, try some of them. I mean, hey, some people, sometimes they're so motivated that what they want to try all of them. That's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I want you to be kind to yourself. Don't be too intense when you start. A lot of times when people want to improve their health, they're like, boom, they try to make a whole 180. They want to do a whole complete change. And sometimes it's just not realistic. They're not ready for that intense, dramatic change. And sometimes they only do it for like a month and then they give up. So I want you to be kind to yourself and don't be too intense. So maybe an approach that you could do is like, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm gonna try to eat healthy. And then Saturday and Sunday is gonna be my more chill days where I'm not gonna be so intense with my diet. Maybe I wanna go out on Saturday and Sunday with my wife and my kids to a restaurant and maybe go eat out with my friends, go to a birthday party and just have the food that they have there. You don't have to worry about having too many carbs or anything. But try to have that schedule Monday through Friday, you being very healthy. And that's gonna be a way better approach, because if you think about it like that, if I told you right now, you're gonna do these things 7 days straight for the whole year, you might be like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, there's birthday parties, there's things. So, but if I tell you, just do it for 5 days, 2 days, you don't have to worry about it. It's like, all right, that sounds more doable. And so, because that feels so doable, I want you to know that what's really gonna give you the results that you want is you actually staying consistent to these changes. And so by you not being too intense, it's gonna allow you to really stay consistent. Another thing that's gonna be very helpful is when you're going for the grocery store, try to find foods with low salt. Maybe like, okay, I wanna follow a low salt diet. So usually we know that high salt is gonna increase your blood pressure. And a lot of times when people have diabetes, they also have high blood pressure. So one thing that you wanna do is look for foods low in salt. You could go on Google, ask ChatGPT, hey, what foods are low in salt? And what's gonna happen is foods that are low in salt are usually gonna be healthy. They're gonna be like, oh, what's low in salt? Vegetables, fruits, whole grains, natural foods, non-processed foods. So that's another way to look at your foods. What is low salt? So oftentimes, another example, what is low salt? If you go to a fast food restaurant, they are not low salt. They put a bunch of salt in your food to make it taste good. So what, if you're gonna be following a low salt diet, that means that you're not gonna be eating out a lot of fast food because it's high in salt. And usually those fast food options are also high in fat and sugar, which is not gonna help you with your diabetes. So another thing to think about is just follow a low salt diet and look for items low in salt. Last thing that I'm gonna say is, if you're at a point with your diabetes that you have to check your blood glucose levels, then I would really encourage you to check them. Sometimes people that have diabetes, they don't like to check them because, and I totally get it, because it's like, if you know that you're eating unhealthy, you know your blood glucose levels are gonna be high. So you don't even wanna check them because you know they're gonna be high. You're gonna look at that number, you're gonna feel disappointed because they're high, and it's just gonna bring down your mood. So oftentimes people, when they're not eating healthy, they don't even wanna check their blood glucose levels because they know they're gonna be high. But I want you to do this. If you're gonna start doing 1 or 2 or all these changes, I want you to check your blood glucose levels before you start doing this. And then after you start doing this, I want you to start checking them. Because 1, it's gonna serve as a motivator. I promise you, if you start making these changes, your blood glucose levels are gonna go down. They're gonna go down. So if you check your readings, you're gonna see what you had at the start and what you have now, and you're gonna be so motivated. You're like, oh my God, my fasting blood glucose levels are, 99 in the morning. So you're gonna be so excited that you're gonna be motivated. Ooh, this is working, let's go. You're gonna keep doing it, and it's gonna spiral to more good habits and more good habits. So use that as a checkpoint for you. Is this working? And you check them, and that's how you're gonna know whether these changes are working. Because sometimes what might happen is that you get lower blood glucose levels, but you're like, okay, they're lower than what they were at, so that's good. But maybe they're still elevated. So you might want to do another change and continue to check your blood glucose. Like, oh, now it's dropping again. So just use that as the gauge to know whether you're improving your blood glucose levels. All right, family, that wraps up the video. I hope you find something useful in this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And then one last thing that I'll say. If you have a question, a nutrition question, since I am a registered dietitian and I am a nutrition professor, I love talking about health and improving people's nutrition habits. So if you have a question related to nutrition or health, shoot it over. I'll review it. Put it in the comments below, leave the question, and then I'll make a video that's very informative, just like this one, that is going to be helpful for you, but then also could be helpful for other people that might be struggling through that same problem. All right, family, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.